Abyss floor 98. It's a little tougher, but we still got it. Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Archates, and today what we're going to be talking about probably one of the hardest floors in all of the Abyss, which is Abyss floor 98, where you have to fight Leo. He's kind of a pain, and he has a lot more mechanics than the average boss, which, to be honest, I really loved. I thought it was super fun. I love fights that require me to put a little bit of thought into them. And so let's start off first by just going through the team, and then we'll get into the actual details of the boss. Kicking off the team, I decided to pick Achates as one of the healers that we ended up using. She's incredibly good at cleansing off the burns when the burns come in, as well as has invulnerability, which is super nice to be able to just pinpoint and target an individual character at any given time. She's also a 4-star, so relatively usable for most people playing the game at this point. Second on the team is actually another Soul Weaver. We're going to bring Angelic Montmorancy because, well, we use her quite a bit, and honestly, her just general output on healing is through the roof. I ended up using Mag's Tome just so that we could kind of shotgun her and make her go a lot faster, but honestly, you could also use Rod of Amaryllis. That would totally be fine as well. Again, these are the stats that I have on my Momo, and you'll want to pay attention to that because towards the end of the video, I'm going to show you Momo soloing the end of the boss. So it's kind of weird, but she does incredible things. Next on the team, just like in floor 99, we are going to bring in Crimson Armin. Do you need to bring in Crimson Armin for this fight? No, you can get away with Montmorancy and probably just Achates, but Crimson Armin makes this fight laughably easy as far as being able to cheese off the bomb mechanic and also being able to just survive very easily with very little thought process put into how each individual phase works with Leo. So, amazing character. I have her on Bastion of Perugia. In one of my fights that I took, I ended up using Arius. I do think Arius is better in the sense that if you have lesser gear than maybe where I'm at in the game, it'll actually help you survive a lot longer. So definitely consider that with this character. So last but not least, we have our big damage dealer. We are fighting a grass type boss, so it makes a ton of sense to use a heavy hitting fire single target DPS. Cermia fits the bill pretty much perfectly. I think I probably could have used a different exclusive equipment because obviously the decrease on cooldown when you're killing things doesn't actually matter because you're hitting a boss over and over. It was pretty irrelevant. Just having the extra attack was nice enough anyhow. But I do think Border Coin actually did a pretty good job here. I don't think it's the only thing you could use. You could definitely use things like Tonfa, Portrait, things that are going to just give you general outright damage as well too. But the reality with Border Coin is it increases your attack by 12% after using a non-attack skill. So you're going to use that skill 2 multiple times in this fight. So you could potentially get this upwards if it's even higher than mine. Mine's at 18, so that would be what? 36% extra attack? Pretty nasty. It's definitely a worthwhile thing to use for this boss. So now that we've taken a look at the team, let's take a look at how this fight actually works. So starting off, right in wave 1, it's basically a tank and spanks. You can auto this pretty easily. I suggest basically making sure that you click on the purple and the blue mobs first. If you click on them and just sort of single target them, you can click on one, walk away, come back when it's dead, click on the other one, walk it down. I would say you could just go straight for the main boss, but the reality is if you don't kill the side things first, they will heal the boss, and it will just be a never-ending cycle for a really long time unless your gear is just crazy good, at which point you don't need this video anyways, right? You got this all figured out. So, reality is that's going to get you through phase 1. The whole purpose of phase 1 is just to get you more souls. Your entire purpose is literally to get a full soul bar, and once you have killed both of the other 2 mobs and you get the main mob there, the one that's called Converted Achates, you'll want to take that one down to about half, turn it off auto, and make sure that you have all of your abilities ready for when phase 2 begins with Leo and the crystal. So now that we've entered phase 2, you've reached the hardest part of this fight. And basically, it's just Leo at the beginning with one of the green, like, geo crystal characters there. Here's how the mechanics of this boss works. So number 1, you have to make sure that you know which ability he's going to be using first. So he has 3 different abilities that he will do. If his S3 is up, Raku will fly at the enemies with a bullet and attack them all, inflicting 2 burn effects for 2 turns and dispelling all debuffs inflicted on the caster. So when the S3 is up, you want to just make sure that you're ready to be able to cleanse off those burns after it happens. Typically after the S3 is the S2. The S2 attacks all enemies with a slingshot, meaning it attacks you, decreases your attack for 2 turns, and if you're not buffed, it will actually inflict an unable to be buffed debuff for 2 turns. If this gets on your characters, it becomes extremely difficult to get off because of the way the rotations work. So it's best to make sure that at that time, that's when you want to be using Carmen's S3 to be able to put up immunity and potential invulnerability. That's when you want to be using your Achates to basically like put up an invulnerability on herself potentially. But more than the Achates, it's mostly between the Armin and the Montmorancy. You can burn Montmorancy's S3 to put immunity on all characters for 2 turns. So both of those are really great options. Also with this particular team, if all of those are down but you have a full bar and there's nothing else you can do, you'll see that multiple times I do this in the fight where you can actually just click Archie. And when you click Archie, you're actually in an even just as fine spot because he actually puts a 2-turn buff up on you as well that increases your crit. So it's honestly a pretty foolproof plan to be able to deal with that S2. That's probably his most difficult thing to do, because then when you get to his S1, it attacks only 2 enemies with a slingshot, dispels all of your buffs, but at that point you're okay because he's already S2'd, and then makes you unhealable for 2 turns. Again, you can cleanse off unhealable with your Momo, you can cleanse off with your Achates S3. There's many ways to be able to deal with that, and so all in all, really, really helpful for the fight. The other important mechanic that exists in this part of the fight is the bomb. The bomb will be put on one of your 4 targets right at the beginning, and the way that you have to deal with that normally would be to pass the bomb around by hitting the green geode crystal, because anytime any of your characters hit it, it will actually just move the bomb off of the character. If you hit it with the person that has the bomb, it will move the bomb to someone else. That's a way to deal with the bomb, but a lot of people at this point actually have found that it's much easier just to cheese it. The way that you would cheese it is by using invulnerability. So you'll notice the bomb has 2 turns. On the first turn, it doesn't actually explode. It's on the second turn that it explodes, or would explode. So the way that you can cheese it is when it has had its first turn, you're fine. But once it's on its second turn, you either use Achates to invulnerability that particular character for their next turn that's going to happen, or you time it out based on how your team is speed tuned with your Carmen to be able to put invulnerability up on everybody. That will also just make the bomb sort of do an explosion, but it'll disappear and the bomb won't come back. So you'll notice when you're watching my fight, there is no bomb after the first bomb. After we put up the first Achates barrier on the Cermia, it actually saved her altogether, and we're actually now completely free to be able to just like look at his abilities. If he's doing his S3, we want to make sure that we're ready to be able to get a big heal in and cleanse off those burns. If he's doing the S2, we want to make sure that we have up a buff, and if he's on his S1, we just want to make sure that we're sort of preparing for S3. S1 is actually kind of the easier one. The other piece with this is on the green crystal. The green crystal will not push the boss forward, but if you attack the boss himself will increase his combat readiness every single time that he is attacked. So it becomes vitally important to be hitting the boss mostly with the character that's going to be doing the most damage, aka Cermia. It doesn't matter if you're not passing the bomb around. You can use the green crystal as sort of like a way to be able to extend time, and you can always be watching your side column to be able to see, okay, who's my next person that's going, what's Leo's next attack, and how do I kind of like manage that particular phase. All in all, this particular part of the fight is a little bit challenging. It may take you a few goes at it just to be able to like think of all these particular things all at once. However, once you start to get the rhythm of it, you'll start noticing that Leo actually does a lot of this stuff in a very similar pattern over and over and over again. It's not like it's random what he's going to hit you with. It's very, very calculated. And so you can actually walk it down pretty easily as long as you're paying attention. This phase ends once Leo reaches 30% health. And so once we get to that point, I'll be right back with you guys. So once we reach the second half of phase 2, you'll notice that Leo actually lets you hit him one time, his green crystal disappears, and then 3 purple crystals will take their place. At that exact same time, also every single person on your team will actually get a bomb on them. So what does that mean for this final phase? Well, you would think with more bombs that this would just become more difficult. But actually, what's kind of strange is you actually get to get rid of the bomb now for all 3 of the crystals that you click on. So there's a couple different ways you can do this. You can either have one of your healers or tanks absorb 1 bomb and hope that they can survive it and or get like an immunity or invulnerability or whatever to get that done. Or you can do what I think is a much more consistent strategy, and hear me out when I say this. You can just let your Cermia die, take all 3 of your healers and tanks, because they're going to be the tankiest ones that can survive and also heal through all the rest of this damage, and they can just cycle and get a whole bunch of extra souls to have more Archies towards the end. So once this phase happens, all of your souls disappear, and at that point you'll be able to actually take on all the rest of those new souls for Archies, and just every time Archie's up and you feel like you're in a spot where you are pretty healed up, just hit the Archie button. It should only take like 2, maybe 3 Archies, and then Leo will be finished, completing floor 98 for you. So that's pretty much it. That's the end of floor 98. Honestly, I feel like when you're going through and reading the paragraphs and paragraphs of things that exist on this boss, it can become extremely overwhelming. And so if you can really just break it down to when Leo goes, he has 3 different abilities, and you can kind of like figure out how to work yourself around those 3 abilities. After the bomb's gone, it's kind of actually easy from there. The rest of those mechanics are extremely important, and it's super worth noting as you're going through, but I'm sure you're probably grateful to just be done with 98 by the time you finish this, so I hope this ended up being as helpful to you as it was for me when I went back through it. It was actually good information. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. We really appreciate that. And we are going back down through floors 100 down to 90. So that way we can give you guys more content for all of you guys that may have not gotten to this point in the game yet. And hopefully it's really helpful information. So love you guys. Appreciate you. Hope to see you in the next video. Have a good one.